Hey guys, my name is Chantel. Welcome back to my channel and thanks for hanging out with me today. So today we are here to talk about Idolish7 Second Beat episode 13. Oh my god. I knew we were gonna get the stuff with Sogo and Tamaki, the whole confrontation with him knowing about Aya. I knew this was gonna happen based on the preview from last week at the end of the episode, and here we are. I just was not expecting to get as emotional as I did, surprisingly. And I may have teared up a little bit here. Anyway, so let's just backtrack a little bit and let's talk about this episode from the beginning. The start of this episode starts off kind of scary, which, not gonna lie, had me a little bit afraid. I was like, oh my gosh, we're starting off already with the drama. No, Tamaki and Sogo were just acting out a part in their I think it was like a drama TV thing that they're doing, if I remember correctly. That whole scene that they were acting out was a little too close to what's happening in their situation, even though, you know, Tamaki doesn't know about Aya yet. But Sogo is just completely nervous, on edge about it, just because, again, it is a little bit close to what's happening in their situation. So anytime Tamaki starts acting out his lines, Sogo kind of like jumps a little bit. He's just like, oh my gosh, he found out. And no, it's just Tamaki acting out. And of course, this drains the life out of Sogo, and he's just like, I need a little bit of time. Let me just go get some water. And actually, before he gets the water, he has this moment where he's sitting down and he's thinking about everything, and he ultimately decides to finally tell Tamaki about Aya. So he decides he's gonna tell him on their day off, and he tells Tamaki, hey, you know, there's something really important I need to talk to you about. And Tamaki is like, oh my gosh, am I in trouble? He's like, no, I just want to have a nice, calm, clear conversation about what I need to tell you. So Tamaki's a little bit confused, obviously, and Sogo is very much determined to finally tell the truth to Tamaki. And I'm like, oh my gosh, yes, finally. I was really happy for Sogo because I'm like, okay, great. He's not gonna hide this anymore, and he's ready for whatever consequences may come. But at least he's gonna take the initiative and tell Tamaki what happened. And I'm sure Tamaki will understand, and maybe they can come to a mutual understanding or just talk it out. Because that's what they really need at the end of the day, is to talk things out. Anyway, so after he decides this, he goes and gets like this cup of water, which he ends up running into Kujo. And I'm not gonna lie, the more that we see Kujo, the more I'm afraid of Kujo interacting with the other members of Idolish7. It's kind of scary. I don't know. It's just, I guess because I really don't know, as someone who's watching, what Kujo's intentions really are. And I don't know if he's behind the whole graffiti and stuff. So I'm just a little bit afraid for the boys, if that makes sense. Just because I don't know personally what Kujo's thinking and what he's really up to. Because he does say some nice things and they all sound really sweet. But at the end of the day, we don't really know what his true intentions is and his true feelings are. And the more that we see Kujo in the anime, the more I'm like, okay, this guy is not a good person. There's something going on here. We don't know Kujo's full story, and I'm kind of afraid to see like how he got to the point where he is now and why he's so obsessed with wanting to surpass 0. Which actually, since we're on the topic of Kujo, this is just like something else that I want to talk about that it's not a part of the episode, but something that I kind of came to the conclusion after talking to you guys in the comments, which, by the way, thank you guys so much for commenting. You guys can comment whatever you guys like, whether it's in a different language. I don't really mind. If you want to comment, please do. I don't mind. It makes me happy to see comments, so feel free to comment, whether it's in Japanese, English, or Spanish. Feel free to do so. Anyway, but going back to what I was saying about Kujo. So now, as someone who just watches the anime, for some reason I started thinking about Kujo, and I'm like, okay, why is, Kujo so obsessed with surpassing 0? That's the one thing I keep thinking about a lot these past few episodes, and the more I talk with you guys, the more I'm starting to wonder if Kujo was like an idol before, and maybe he has some type of resentment. Maybe he was friends with 0, and ultimately probably maybe he was disappointed with whatever happened with Zero. But for me personally now, I feel like the more I'm starting to see Kujo and the more I talk to you guys, the more I'm starting to feel like Kujo knew about Zero like personally, like on a personal level. Maybe he was friends with Kujo, maybe they were both idols in the same industry, but I have no idea because I'm an anime only, so I only know as much as the anime is telling me right now. So I have no idea, and I'm actually kind of excited to see if and when we go into Kujo's backstory and, like I said earlier, how he got to this point, because I'm very intrigued, very interested. But anyway, going back to this episode, so Kujo is being, very polite with Sogo and Tamaki, and they're able to talk to Kujo a little bit, and this is when I was like, uh-oh, this isn't good. Was when Kujo starts to mention that he knew of Sogo's uncle. And here's the thing. Once again, the way that the anime portrays this moment, there's just so much little hints. Just the way that they show it to you visually. Because the scene, you just see Kujo's mouth and there's like a little bit of darkness here. And he says Sogo's uncle's name. The way that he said it, I was like, oof, I already know just by the way that the anime is like showing it to us. Kujo does not think too highly of Sogo's uncle, but Sogo is like very surprised and he's like, oh my gosh, you knew my uncle. And I'm pretty sure if he had more time, he probably wanted to ask him more about what his uncle was like and what he knew about his uncle, but obviously they didn't have time. They had to go back and film. Once Tamaki and Sogo are out, that's when we hear Kujo's thoughts, and he's like, yeah, he wasn't all that great. He could never surpass Zero. Kujo really doesn't think about anyone being able to surpass Zero, or no one can compare to 10. 10 is like the only one who can surpass Zero in his eyes. It's kind of scary because throughout the whole time when he's talking to 10, I got really creeped out. I got the chills because Kujo, I don't know if it's his voice actor, Kenjiro Suda. Hopefully I pronounced his name right. He does a fantastic job at making him sound creepy, but at the same time not. I don't know how else I can explain it, but that's how I felt when I was listening to Kujo talk about 10, and just the way that the anime was portraying everything in this episode was just like, oh my gosh, he wasn't saying anything creepy or anything bad, but at the same time it just gives you like a creepy feeling, like almost like a sense of danger. Like you shouldn't be interacting with this man, you shouldn't be near this man, if that makes sense. Like it just gives me bad vibes all around. Anyway, so actually, interestingly enough, before Tamaki and Sogo go away to go film more, before everything with him mentioning Sogo's uncle, Kujo looks at Tamaki and he's like, you kind of look like my daughter. That instant, I was like, Kujo, please don't play dumb. I'm pretty sure you know that they're related. Or maybe he doesn't. But again, Kujo, I feel like is a smart man. So I feel like he does know, but he's just, playing dumb. But again, I could be totally wrong about that. But I don't know. To me, just watching that interaction, I'm like, there's just no way he doesn't know that him and I are related somehow. But I don't know. I guess we'll find out later. Who knows? I'll give Kujo the benefit of the doubt that he doesn't know. But I'm pretty sure after looking at Tamaki, he probably has an idea like they could probably be related. But who knows? But going back to Kujo and 10. So as 10 is hearing Kujo say all these things, we do have like this moment where the anime, you don't see 10's eyes, his eyes are just completely dark, and 10 starts to ask, will that really make you happy if I achieve what you want me to achieve? And that's the big question, is will this really make Kujo happy? And again, I feel like it goes back to my question is, how did Kujo end up here? How did he end up to this moment where he is just so obsessed with having someone surpass Zero? That's what I really want to know. And is it really gonna make him happy? Because once 10 achieves that, what is Kujo going to do? Is he gonna ask for more? Is he gonna take this a little bit more further? Or is he gonna drop 10 and be like, nah, this wasn't it? There's just like a million things that could happen, and ultimately I'm a little worried for 10. I don't know what to expect with Kujo. I don't know what's gonna happen in the future, but I'm really scared. I'm actually really scared for 10. So I don't know. I guess we'll see how things play out, but it makes me excited to see how the story is going to develop in terms with Kujo and just how involved he is and what's his backstory. Anyway, so enough Kujo talk. Let's talk about the next thing that I do want to talk about, which is this moment that we get with Idolish7 and Trigger. So they're still practicing, and they basically come together to figure out what they can do for Rivale, because they're still like trying to make them comfortable and happy, and they're still supporting them, and even though they're going through so much right now. So they're trying to figure out what they can do for Rivale as like a thank you and to help them out, because they've helped them out in so many ways. So they basically kind of come up with a plan. We as the audience don't know what this plan is, but Riku comes up with something and everyone seems to like it. But I guess we'll find out the day of the concert, whatever happens there. So that's pretty much that. We'll get back to this moment later because we do see them talk to Rivale at the end of the episode. But before we talk about that, let's talk about Tamaki and Sogo's fight. Here's where things start to get a little bit intense. Tamaki, Sogo, and Ryo are all practicing, and Tamaki asks, "Hey, can I borrow your towel, Sogo?" And so Sogo says, "Yeah, sure." But he forgets that the charm is in his bag. And when all this was happening, that I didn't think too much about it until Sogo reacted the way that he did, and then you see the charm fall out of Sogo's bag. The minute I saw the charm fall out of the bag, I kid you not, the scream I let out. It also scared my husband, because my husband was like, "Are you okay?" And I'm like, yeah, don't worry about me. I was just like really into what was happening in this episode, clearly, because I wish I recorded my reaction, you guys. Clearly, I'm still a mess just thinking about it, just the way that it happened, but also now thinking about it after having some time to sit on this episode and think about it. Why did Sogo carry the charm around? Why didn't he just put it somewhere safe, like in his room or something? Why did he just have it lying in his bag? What if he lost it? I don't know what Sogo was thinking about when he just left the charm in his bag. Or maybe he forgot about it, because it looks like he did forget about it for that instant until later on he remembers, and he's just like, "Wait, stop, don't look through my bag." But it's too late. It's too late to take everything back. Too late for him to, do something about it, because Tamaki already sees the charm. And he says, "My mom made a charm for me and Aya like this before she died." And I'm like, oh, no, this is not going good. Especially the way that Tamaki looks, just the life in his eyes just go away when he sees the charm. So Tamaki immediately knows Sogo has seen Aya and didn't tell him. And he is very angry, frustrated, and hurt over this whole situation, because he's like, why didn't you tell me? He's obviously completely wrecked and just has so many emotions going through him. He's angry, he's upset, rightfully so. And Sogo's trying to explain his side, but Tamaki is just, he's not in the right state to calmly listen to Sogo and what he has to say. And it starts getting really, really hurtful when Tamaki starts to say, I have been doing so great because of you. I've been doing good because of you. For you. I've been working hard. And yet, this is how you decide to treat me. Why can't you trust me? And that's when he says that he is gonna quit Mezzo, but he's not gonna quit his job. And thankfully, Ryu steps in and is like, "Okay, we need to take a step back. We can't work like this." So he basically goes on and talks to Tamaki and tells Sogo, "Let me handle this. You go on ahead." Ryu takes the time to talk to Tamaki, and Tamaki is just, again, he's clearly very, very much upset and says that he's gonna quit everything, that all he really needs is Aya anyway. And instantly, Ryu is like, "You see there? That is exactly why Sogo didn't trust you, because you say things like this. You expect people to trust you, but how can they when you're going about things a little bit too extreme like this?" And Tamaki basically says, how he's been trying really, really hard, and at the end of the day, all he really wanted was for Sogo to approve of him. He knew that Sogo didn't admire him. He knew everything that Yamato said was a lie, but he believed that if he worked hard enough, that eventually it would become true. And it just breaks my heart, because Tamaki is just laying out all his feelings out in the open and is telling Ryu and us as the audience, as we're watching, how he truly feels about Sogo and how he truly feels about the situation. And this is when I started getting teary-eyed. I'm trying hard not to cry right now. My eyes are starting to get watery. It hurts to see Tamaki hurting like this because he desperately wants to not make trouble for Sogo. He's really trying hard to change, and now he kind of feels like a little bit betrayed, a little bit like, then why am I doing this for if he's not going to trust me? And it kind of sucks. You know, there's just a little bit of a rough patch there, and that's when Ryo starts to talk to him and say, you know, everyone has moments like this. You know, sometimes people in the group don't understand each other until, you know, you talk it out, sit with each other, and are finally willing to understand one another. And he basically tells him, you know, I think Sogo is trying to understand you and is trying his hardest too, which is why he didn't know what to do about whether or not he should tell you about Aya and why the situation ended up the way that it did. I think this also makes Tamaki think about things a little bit differently because he starts to calm down the more he talks to Ryu and the more he starts talking about his feelings, right? I feel like Tamaki is starting to see things maybe a little bit more from Sogo's perspective now that he talked to Ryu, thankfully. And that's when we move into Yamato, Riku, and Sogo talking it out with each other. So they are all talking to Sogo. And what I really, really like about this part is that while they're talking to Sogo, there's like this visual of like almost like it looks like an alarm or like a light that's like flashing red. And it looks like it's on. And I feel like, again, maybe it's just me thinking a little bit too much about it. Maybe the staff that's working on the anime put it there purposely. Let us know that, yes, this represents everything that's going on right now in the situation. You know, it's kind of like alarms going off. You know, there's chaos. Because when you see like an alarm, that means that there's something wrong. There's trouble. I feel like that just kind of represents the whole situation right now with Tamaki and Sogo. Like everything just kind of blew up. I just thought that was really interesting how they use that visual for this whole part. As they're talking about this, Riku is like, you know, being super polite and understanding. You know, it's Riku. He realizes now that the Firefire story was actually about him and Tamaki. And Yamato kind of comes in and basically talks some sense into Sogo. And he tells him honestly and truthfully how he's kind of seeing things and pretty much the whole situation, what he thinks about it. And he pretty much tells him that he needs to learn to rely on other people and not do things alone. He can't always be like this. He can't hold things in and expect things to get better. He needs to learn to rely on his friends and not just on Tamaki, but everyone else in the group, and learn to accept help from others. That's what he really needs to learn. That's when Yamato is like, do you think of us as a burden or something? He's like, no, that's not like it. Like, I trust you guys, obviously, but I don't want to burden you with my troubles. And Yamato's like, don't worry about it. If you come to us with your troubles, like, we're happy to listen. That's why we're here. We're your friends. We're your family. So why wouldn't we be here for you? And as I was watching this, and again, after sitting on this and thinking about it for a while, I think the reason why Sogo has so much trouble talking to people and opening up and just relying on other people is probably because he never had that in his own family. Because of how his family treated his uncle, and now more so with, you know, Sogo being an idol. I feel like he always had to rely on himself and not rely on others because of his whole situation with his family. And when you see it that way, you're like, well, no wonder Sogo had such a hard time trying to figure out what to do and to talk to somebody honestly about his situation, because he's never really had this kind of experience before. This is something completely new to him, where there's actually people wanting to listen to him, people who are not going to think of him as a burden. It's a whole new thing for him to learn. And I feel like now that he has people like Tamaki and everyone in Idolish7, I feel like slowly but surely Sogo is going to learn to rely on people. It's just going to take a little bit of time, and that it's okay to rely on people, because I feel like even with us, even me, actually, I do have a little bit of a hard time relying on people. I have trouble wanting to ask for help, and I feel like a lot of us have experiences like that in real life, where we do have trouble asking for help and wanting to rely on people, and you just want to take all of this yourself. But taking all of it to yourself is going to be more of a burden. It's going to stress you out more, and it's just going to hurt everyone in the end. So it's better to ask for help, rely on other people to help you. So now with this whole conversation with them, Sogo is determined to talk to Tamaki and make things right, and he pretty much breaks down Tamaki's door with a drill, which was really scary. This looks like something out of a horror film. Tamaki was afraid, and just the way that Sogo was waving around the drill as he was talking to Tamaki was like, are you threatening me right now? Because this isn't looking good. And the poor boy is just terrified. And, Sogo could have just put down the drill maybe for a few seconds, because it really did scare me too. I was just like, yeah, like, Sogo, please don't break down any more doors. But anyway, he tells Tamaki that he is willing to, on their day off, to basically go and look for Aya. We don't know exactly how he does it until we get the scene with Trigger where they're filming something and they get like this note from a sponsor. And I was like, that's kind of weird, because they're all like, why would a sponsor want us to say this? And when Ryu looks at the note, he's like, don't worry about it. I got this. I know what this is about. And they basically are encouraging fans to give well wishes to Tamaki because he's feeling a little bit down and all this stuff. Basically, it was a message to Aya. And Aya sees it because she's watching it and she's like, I need to go and help my brother. Like, what's going on with my brother? I need to go see him. So she basically brushes out. And I got scared here because Sumagi was driving and you hear the car screech. And that's when you see Aya like cross the thing. And I'm like, oh no, did she get run over? Like, this is not good. But no, she's fine. She's completely fine, thank God, as we see later on at the end of the episode. When this is all happening, Tamaki is like confused and like a little bit angry. He's just like, what's going on? How did you even like get them to say that? And basically how Sogo came to do this was he said that, oh, this is from, the sponsor wants you guys to say. They were like, but you're not in good terms with your dad. And Sogo's like, yeah, but children and parents always fight, it's normal. And he's basically like kind of threatening them in a way. It was like, are you gonna go against like the sponsor's word, what they want to do? Do you guys want me to tell my dad? And I was like, oh my gosh, like Sogo used like his connections, even though like I know he probably never would want to like have anything to do with it, but he did it for the greater good and he did it for Tamaki just so he can have a moment to talk to Aya and see her again. And it all worked out because that's when Tamaki gets the call and we see him rush out of the building and he sees Aya and Aya is happy to see him clearly. And that's how the episode ends. And I'm like, did you guys really have to end the episode here when things were like getting really good? Like, I cannot wait to see the next episode, but I'm also really, really scared because we do see like this in the preview image where Ten is standing next to Aya and I'm like, oh my god, things are good. Oh my god, like Tamaki is gonna find out that that's his adoptive sister and oh my gosh. Before I forget, during this whole thing when everything is happening with Tamaki and stuff, Idolish7 does talk to Rivale and they basically say, hey, like we wanted to discuss something with you about the concert. We want to do like an opening act for you as like, us as a group, like Idolish7 and Trigger. And they're like, okay, sure. And during this whole thing, Iori takes the opportunity to ask Yuki about Yuki's former partner, and you can tell just because they zoom into like Yuki's hands and they twitch a little bit, so it kind of obviously caught Yuki off guard and it almost seems like, I was like, oh, I don't think that's something we should be talking about right now, Iori. But he decides to open up and he talks about what happened. He's like, yeah, okay, what is it that you want to know? And Iori basically tells him like, who was the guy that approached you? And it is revealed that it is Kujo, and I completely lost my mind. I know one of you guys told me in the comments before about this, but to see it like happening in the anime, I was just like completely mind blown. And that was when Yuki believes that Kujo was behind the whole incident so he can acquire Rivale. And I'm like, that is completely nuts, that the fact that Yuki came to that conclusion. And Yuki basically is telling everyone in Idolish7, do not go near this man. He has a dark side to him, so you guys need to be really, really careful when you come in contact with him. And I'm like, oh, holy crap. Like now Yuki is like telling him like, hey, this guy is bad news. He's giving them a warning. And I'm hoping that the boys take this warning seriously because I don't know. Like I said, I don't know Kujo's true intentions or what he can really do. But if Yuki really does believe that he was behind the incident, he could easily do something to hurt any of the boys. And that scares me. That thought scares me. And it goes back to the whole thing of me thinking about how he could be possibly behind the whole graffiti thing and everything, which makes it even more scarier. So I'm just afraid for the boys. And I hope everything goes well for the concert and there's no incidents. I think that's all I really have to say for this week's episode of Idolish7. Oh, I'm not prepared to see what's gonna happen next, but also I'm really, really excited to see what's gonna happen next at the same time. So yeah, other than that, once again, thank you guys so much for commenting in the videos. Thank you guys so much for all the love on the Idolish7 videos. I truly, truly, truly appreciate it. Once again, feel free to comment in any language. It's okay. And yeah, so without further ado, I hope you guys are staying safe and healthy out there. And I will see you guys in my next video. Bye!